Welcome back to the channel, y'all. Today we are continuing with our subclass tier list for Baldur's Gate 3. Now here is the updated list of what we have covered so far. I went ahead and added the names to the subclasses because I got a comment from one of y'all saying like, I'm a new player, I don't know what any of these icons mean, so hopefully this will help you out. But yeah, with that out of the way, we're doing the Sorcerer today, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, and the first subclass for Sorcerer that we're going to talk about is Storm Sorcery. Now, at level 1, you get Tempestuous Magic, meaning when we use a level 1 spell, we can then use our bonus action to fly without proccing an opportunity attack. Now, there's some version of Baldur's Gate 3 where it would show you getting hit with an opportunity attack even if you were trying to fly away, but I don't think that's the case. I think that was just a bug. Now, at level 2, every sorcerer gets access to meta magic. And at level 3, they get to pick the second tier of meta magic. And I just want to point out quickened here because this will allow you to use your bonus action at the cost of some sorcery points to cast another spell. This makes every single sorcerer really good, and why even the worst sorcerer subclass is still going to rank pretty dang high. So I'm bringing it up here in the Storm Sorcery section just this once, but just know every sorcerer has access to this. And at level 6, we pick up Heart of the Storm. So if we do lightning or thunder damage with a spell, it will then do a small AoE damage depending on, again, which element you do out of thunder or lightning. We also pick up Heart of the Storm resistance. So we're resistant to lightning and thunder damage. But the real benefit, I think, of level 6 here are these storm spells that you get access to. Most notably, Create or Destroy Water and Call Lightning. And why this is so good is because you can use your first spell slot to use Create or Destroy Water, you can get a target wet, and then use your meta magic and quickened to use Call Lightning or any lightning spell and do double damage. This also works with ice spells as well, just in case your target is resistant to lightning damage. But this combination here makes Storm Sorcery extremely powerful, and very early on here at level 6. At level 11, we pick up our last subclass feature in the form of Storm's Fury. So this is a reaction that when we are struck by a melee attack, we can deal lightning damage to the attacker and possibly push them back. This is an okay reaction ability, and our kit is already extremely powerful, so this is just more like a cherry on top. Now, when it comes to ranking Storm Sorcery, I think I have to put it into S tier, and there's a lot of reasons why. First off is, of course, just being a sorcerer and having access to those meta magics makes you a really powerful spellcaster. But Tempestuous Magic there at level 1, that's a good mobility option. But at level 6, with the Heart of the Storm features you get, getting Create and Destroy Water and then Call Lightning and being able to do that combination for double damage is extremely powerful. This is the only sorcerer that can do that without multi-classing. So that gets a lot of points in my book, and just again, a really easy S tier pick for me. Next up, let's talk about Wild Magic Sorcerer. So at level 1, you get Wild Magic. So when you cast a spell, your magic surges, and then you might trigger one of these magical random effects. And here's the list right here. In addition to that, we get the Tides of Chaos, which we can get advantage on our next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, but it's going to increase that chance of that wild magic surge afterwards. So this is kind of our wild card when it comes to a spell caster. At level 6, the subclass feature we get is Bend Luck. Now this is going to cost 2 sorcery points, but this is going to add a 1d4 bonus or penalty to an ability check. We can also use this on attack rolls and saving throws as a reaction, which can be really handy if you need a spell like Hold Person or Hold Monster to connect. Now at level 11, we pick up the subclass feature Controlled Chaos. So when an enemy spellcaster uses a spell, we can induce one of our wild magic surges on them. And remember, these surges, they can be both positive or negative, so you can end up helping out your enemies instead. Again, this kind of adds to that wild card nature of this subclass. And let's be honest, who doesn't love being a wild card sometimes, especially when you're the one who's not affected by that negative wild surge. Now, when it comes to ranking Wild Magic Sorcerer, I think I have to stick it into A tier. Having that Tides of Chaos and Bend Luck to ensure that you get off an important spell, again, something like Hold Person or Hold Monster, that is really valuable. And then you sprinkle on those magic wild effects. Those can be really fun, especially if you're doing a playthrough with like a group of friends. And I rank that really highly. So I think this one sits comfortably in A tier. The next subclass that we're going to talk about is Draconic Bloodline, and there's a lot that's going on with this subclass, especially at level 1 here. So we get Draconic Resilience, which is going to bump our armor class up to 13. This does not stack with mage armor, so keep that in mind. But we also get additional hit points depending on our sorcerer level. In addition to that, we get to pick up our dragon ancestry, so you get to pick a certain elemental type: fire, acid, lightning, and cold. I usually just probably go between fire and lightning, and then that'll give you a free spell. So in the case of fire there, you pick up Burning Hands, so you don't actually need to pick that while you're leveling your sorcerer up. And the last thing we get at level 1, you actually get to alter your character's appearance and put on like these dragon scales. Now you don't have to put them on, but this is a cool subclass feature that, again, the other sorcerers don't have access to. So a little bit of like appearance aura farming or something like that. And at level 6, we pick up the subclass feature, Elemental Affinity Damage. So when we cast a spell that matches our dragon line, in this example, we're using fire, we're going to add our charisma modifier on top of that damage. And what makes this so good is because in Baldur's Gate 3, there's a lot of items that already are going to add your spell casting modifier to your spell damage. So this just gets put on top of that. And in addition to that, we also get Elemental Affinity Resistance. So when we cast a spell that matches our dragon ancestry, we also can spend a sorcery point to become resistant to that damage. So for example, we cast a fire spell, we can then use our reaction and a sorcery point to become resistant to fire. I actually find this reaction to be not very useful, and I usually just toggle it off, but it can come in handy sometimes. But the real feature out of level 6 here is that Elemental Affinity Damage. And at level 11, we pick up our last subclass feature for Draconic here, and we just pick up Fly as a movement ability, which is actually really amazing, again, for movement. This is one of the best movement skills in the game, and we just get it intrinsically at level 11 here, which is big thumbs up. And I think it comes as no surprise, but Draconic Bloodline is also an S tier subclass, kind of similar to Storm Sorcery. It can just dish out a lot of damage, and then getting Fly at level 11 is one of the best movement abilities in the game. Couple that with, again, the meta magics, and yeah, just a really easy S tier pick. It's not my favorite sorcerer subclass, but I can't deny just how good this subclass is overall. Now, last subclass we have up is Shadow Magic, and this is the latest addition to the Sorcerer class. At level 1, we get Eyes of the Dark, which means we can see in the dark up to 24 meters. We also pick up Strength of the Grave, so if we hit 0 hit points, we will not be downed. Instead, we will come back with 1 hit point remaining. This is actually a really good survivability feature. I find it comes in handy more times than I like to admit, but hey, there it is. And then at level 3, we pick up the spell Darkness, and we also pick up the unique spell Eyes of the Darkness, which is the same thing as Darkness except for it costs 2 sorcery points. But additionally, it gives us the Eyes of the Dark effect, which lets us see in both magical and non-magical darkness up to 25 meters. Now, up until this point, Shadow Magic may be a little bit underwhelming, but at level 6 here, we get Hound of Ill Omen. This makes this subclass a pet subclass because we get this Hound that we can summon at any time. It costs 3 sorcery points. Now, this Hound comes with its own skill set. If it bites a target, there's a chance it'll put a debuff on that target, and that debuff will tell you to match an elemental type, say like ice for this example. And if that target is then hit with any ice spell or any ice effect, your sorcerer will be refunded a sorcery point. It also has this Umbral Tangle ability, which will root targets in close proximity. But the best feature of this Hound is when they are hit, they can use their reaction to basically create a mini version of themselves, a lesser Hound. And then that lesser Hound has its own Umbral Tangle, and if that lesser Hound is hit, they can then use their reaction to spawn another lesser Hound. Meaning this one minion can quickly become a crap ton of minions, making this Shadow Magic Sorcerer kind of like, again, a pet class on top of like a Minion Mancer class as well. And at level 11, we pick up Shadow Walk as a bonus action, meaning we can teleport into any shadow. So this subclass also has its own really good movement ability. But in addition to that, once you use Shadow Walk, your next spell has that meta magic distance spell effect, meaning you can cast that spell at a really far distance. Alright, and when it comes to ranking Shadow Magic Sorcerer, this one's a little bit of a weird one because of that pet mechanic, that Hound of Ill Omen, and that's not going to be for everybody. But me, I like what they're doing with the Hound here, so I'm going to be putting it into A tier. especially because as long as you take care of your hound, in most encounters in this game, those lesser hound spawns are going to completely snowball so many of these fights into your favor. It can get a little wacky, a little out of control, but it's just really fun to watch. So for me, yeah, it's got to be an A tier. All right, y'all, that is all the Sorcerer subclasses ranked. Now here's the updated tier list. You can see that I had to move Oathbreaker and Ancients down to A- tier, and that A tier is getting very crowded. We're probably going to have to do another category, like maybe like a B+, because I already know there are some more A tiers, or a lot more A tiers when it comes to the classes that we haven't ranked yet. So again, we want to kind of shoot for a nice bell curve, and like I said, I think at the beginning of doing these tier lists, Baldur's Gate 3, most all of the subclasses are viable. It's a very much a top-heavy balance, so there's just a lot of powerful choices in Baldur's Gate 3. So that's why there again we're gonna have a lot of like B+, A-, A, and S tier picks, and not so much many that are down, I would say, in like the C or the D tier. You got to be some sort of special to be ranked that low in this case. But yeah, guys, that is the video. I'm glad to be back to ranking these subclasses. Kind of went on a little bit of a hiatus, but we're back. We'll start pumping these out. And with Sorcerer here, we're at the halfway mark. So yeah, looking forward to doing the rest. And I will see you guys next time. Peace and take care.